Hey everybody, Todd here with Concealed Carry Texas. Welcome back. If I don't sound too good, I'm sorry. Spring allergies are getting the best of me. Um, but yeah, red dots are the topic for the day. And, they're not going anywhere. We have more manufacturers making firearms ready, optics ready out the box. And so after we easily get caught up in the discussion of which red dot's best, for concealed carry, duty, competition, all that good stuff. And while that is important for us making our decisions after we make that decision, but particularly for concealed carriers, um, we need to start thinking about dot brightness. And when I'm talking about dot brightness, I don't mean, um, what's the brightness capability of the dot. What I'm talking about is what is our vision. What does our vision need to adequately see the dot through transition spaces? Because whenever we leave our home for the day, generally we're going from indoors, outdoors, back indoors. So we're transitioning from dimly lit, bright to dimly lit again. So we need to make sure that our dot is set to the proper brightness setting, uh, so that we can manage all those different situations. Now, for example, my personal dot, I use a 507 Holosun. I've run this dot for quite a long time. I've had no problems with it. This one has an auto, a manual, and a lock feature. I don't use the lock feature mostly because I've never had any issues with bumping anything off. These buttons are pretty recessed and fairly stiff, so never had any issues like that. But I have used the auto feature on this. I tried it once before, and it does what it's supposed to do, right? So I'm not sure if there are any other dots that offer an auto feature. Regardless, this particular one, when you go into darker spaces, the dot dims down, so it adjusts that so it's not like blinding you, right? And when you go outside in brighter spaces, it brightens up so it can doesn't wash out in the bright sun, right? And that it's doing what it's supposed to do. But what happens if you're running an optic light, weapon mounted light, or a handheld light, right? And you have to, light somebody up. Um, that dot's going to wash out. Okay. So, and you might be thinking, well, it's daytime. I'm not going to be needing a light. BS. There are dark spaces in the daytime. We come across them all the time. All right. Don't let anybody say that crap. They exist. But we need to consider these things. So, my personal preference for my carry is I keep mine one setting below full brightness. And from my experience and what my vision prefers, that is the sweet spot for me. That on a bright that I can put it in my pants, don't have to worry about it. It's bright enough for a bright, generally bright enough for a bright day that it's not going to wash out. It's not too bright in dimly lit settings that it's going to be so bright that it's going to wash out my target, that I'm just going to see red everywhere. But it's also not too dim that if I have to use a light, that dot's not going to wash out. So these are all scenarios that we can find ourselves in and day out, uh, daytime and nighttime. So we need to be checking our brightness settings and experimenting with those settings before we leave the house. Okay. Mine on really, really bright sunny days, sometimes I'll run it up to full. And if I'm going into a space, I can just, why I like it on manual, if I'm going into a dimly lit space, I can just pull up my shirt before I leave the car and I can knock it down one setting and I'm good to go. That's it. That's all there is to it. So, whatever your dot is that you're running, I want you to consider this. Um, Play with it, figure out what settings work best for you, and roll with it. Everybody's vision is different. You might be able to run with a dimmer setting. Um, Me personally, I tend to like brighter. I like to see that dot. I want to make sure it's there every single time. I don't want to have to think about it. But if you're running a light or a handheld light, a weapon mounted light, anything like that, you definitely need to check that brightness and consider that, whether it's outside of the home or inside of the home. Uh, that's going to be important. And when it comes to lights, if you're not carrying a handheld light at the very minimum, um, Yeah, that's a topic for another time. But until next time, guys, I hope y'all enjoyed this. I hope this helps somebody getting started, or if you're new to red dots, or if you're experienced and this is something you just haven't considered before. If you go down in the description below, you can find links to our podcast, Instagram page, and my training page as well. So until next time, guys, stay strapped and stay safe.